As you know, sorry, as you know, the soil is a highly complex system characterized by different chemical, physical, and biological processes influenced by various environmental and management factors. This complexity is accentuated when the soil have excess salts. Soil affected by high level of soluble salts are very difficult to manage, particularly when sodium is the main cation contributing to the high salt level. And that characteristic affects the productivity of the ecosystem. To make decision about this problem that affects huge productive areas of the planet, and that gets worse every day with direct consequences on food production, we need tools like the global map of salt-affected soils with periodic updates and constant monitoring of soil salinity, especially with irrigated production. However, these tools are consistent and reliable only if the information generated in the laboratories, the analytical data is reliable and comparable. So the result must come from harmonized methods. Not having harmonized analytical data becomes a problem when we need to summarize and analyze the information to understand soil processes, evaluate the impact of management, and also to make decisions to preserve its health within the framework of the International Sustainable Development Agenda. Today, 5 years after its launch, GLOSOLAN has grown a lot, not only in the number of laboratory and people involved, around 800 laboratories operating in more than 150 countries, but it has also grown in terms of the topic it covers. Depending on the type of analysis predominant in soil laboratories, GLOSOLAN initial task focused on the harmonization of chemical soil analysis methodologies. Then we began to work with physical analysis methodologies. And later, during 2021, we began to focus on biological analysis. However, in each of these fields, we need to have the greatest possible critical mass. It's very important to add capabilities. And in soil affected by salts, that critical mass is concentrated in INSAS. That is why it would be an enormous support for us that INSAS experts will review our work related to the evaluation of saline salts. From GLOSOLAN, we can add experience in harmonizing methodologies, in training colleagues who require it, and also in regard to the scope and application of the various analytical methods. From INSAS, you can contribute with your experience and knowledge in the use, in the interpretation, and the evaluation of this type of parameters, in addition to proposing priorities for harmonization or joint work. Together, we can strengthen knowledge about the soils and its functioning and contribute to the development of indicators that are accepted internationally, to a sustainable use of soil and the adoption of good practices that improve the availability and safety of food. In short, I think that together we can enhance results and avoid duplication of efforts. So once again, I thank you for your interest and your decision to contribute to this work. I hope that the meeting will be fruitful and that will be successful in the activities ahead. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks a lot, Miriam, for your nice speech. And I will now give the floor to Mr. Butler Sales, the chair of INSAS, please.
Dear respected colleagues, nice to meet you all today. And first of all, I want to give thanks to the chair of the GLOSOLAN network and the coordinator for accepting us as contributor to their very important work. GLOSOLAN is a network that was constituted before the INSAS and has a long experience and a lot of activities. And it is a good example for activating our network, INSAS. And in this case, I think that we can add some value to the activities of GLOSOLAN because of your experience and your wisdom dealing with the problems that are particular of salt-affected soils. All of us, I guess, have fighted when trying to do mechanical analysis, particle size analysis, or when analyzing the gypsum content, or when trying to do organic matter by Walkie Black methods. And so in salt-affected soils, because of the huge amount of salts, usually, or the kind of the salts, for example, such alkaline soils that it is very difficult to deal as well, because dry are as hard rock, and when moist they expand, and well, it is a matter that it is a special challenge for those dealing with salt-affected soils, as you know. You have such experience, and then I think that it is good that we participate, and as well because the activities of the Global Soil Partnership probably will be much more based not on pillars but on the activity of the networks. And then I think that with your wisdom and your experience and skills, you can be synergic with the efforts of GLOSOLAN. Well, we are starting, but I think that there is a huge work in front of us, because several methods should be specially modified for attending the needs of the analysis of salt-affected soils. And it is true that it is not everybody has a standardized solution. Many laboratories finding their own way to deal with the problems. And this is the idea that we make such standard that data will be later globally easy compared for general sake of the science. So this is my idea that we can do that, and I am sure, because we have reviewed your curricula vitae, and all of you are excellent researchers with long experience in the field, that you can, during the discussions of the methods, you can add your own difficulties, how you did overcome this, and how it can be done in the ideas of GLOSOLAN that are making the analysis environmental safe and human safe, and not wasting the chemicals and trying to find the methods that save the amount of chemicals and so on. So it is not the standard methods we had in the past, but now it's a new view, taking into account the environmental concern and the conservation of our environment. And I want to thank you all, because this is voluntary help, and this will take your time, and this will take your effort revising the documents and making your notes, and well, maybe thinking how we can go farther of the well-known practices we have today. So thank you all for joining us. We have received a big number of voluntary applications to join this working group. You were selected because you fitted very well the profile for this call. other applicants that have a high merit, but were not so well aligned as you to this activity. But we take them into account for other activities that could appear in the future. So thank you all. You are welcome to this joint working group. And this is what I wanted to transmit you. And my gratitude and I trust that you will do a very good task. Thank you.
Yeah, nice words. And now, as you mentioned, we would like to hear from the members of this working group. Maybe Maria, you can help me with moderating this two-day table. We will try to ask briefly to you to in less than a minute, basically, to introduce yourself, so the other colleagues may know more about you. So where are you located? What is your background? And so I will start or try to following the order on my screen. The first one I see is Mr. Aunana.
People, we can ask colleagues to switch on their videos so that we could see each other, and we can take the photo.
Also, yes, yeah. Let's take the photo now. Can you all please turn your camera on so we can take a screenshot? Okay, a second. Good, thanks a lot. So maybe we can proceed and give the word to Mr. Oanana.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Adalbert Onana, yes, from Cameroon, Central Africa, and I'm working in IHA, International Institute of Tropical Agriculture. Yes, and I'm a supervisor of 2 programs there, Cocoa Salts and Soil Carbon. Yes, based in Ghana, Ivory Coast, Nigeria and Cameroon, and Soil Carbon based in Uganda and Cameroon. Yes, so I'm soil scientist, soil chemist and soil fertility with soil chemistry and soil fertility background. Yes, and my research focus is soil and water quality in relation with crop growth and yield, and also integrated soil fertility management in relation with crop production, soil water and climate relationships, nutrient recycling, and recycling and use of organic waste. Yes, that's my expertise and my focus. Yes, I think, yes, I'm interested in to work in this group because, yes, as you know, yes, semi-arid areas, yes, is represented by here in Cameroon and also in Africa. Yes, at a very important extent. So we face this issue of salinity here, and I'm very interested to share my experience and to get also the experience from other colleagues now. Thank you. Yeah, I will stop here, and I want to hear what about you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Oanana. I will now give the floor to Mr. Magdi Abdelhamid.
Yes, thank you, Filippo. Thank you, Maria. Thank you all, Mr. President of this society and group. My name is Magdi Abdelhamid. I am a research professor and the head of botany department at National Research Center, Cairo. my main research area, including how to improve plant performance under salt-affected soil or using saline water in agriculture. In Egypt, we are facing two main problems and two issues. First one is salt-affected soil, and salinization of soil could be reached to 1/3 of agricultural land in Egypt is salt-affected soil. And we're also facing water shortage due to water limitation. So Egypt is arid country. So we are facing both challenge, water scarcity and salt-affected soil. So main research area I am working and focusing on how to improve crops performance and yield under such condition. Salt-affected soil or using also marginal water as alternative source of fresh water. And this will result in salinization of soil and loses more yield. This is mainly and briefly my research area and my experience at National Research Area, at National Research Center, Cairo, Egypt. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Abdelhamid. I will now give the floor to Shabir Shahid from Kuwait.
Hello, can you listen?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I'm Dr. Shabir Shah from Kuwait Institute for Scientific Research. With regards to soil salinity, the salinity is showing the effect on the crops in Kuwait. Kuwait has two major areas. One is in Wafra in the south near Saudi border. Another one is Abdali, is on the north near the Iraqi border. There is no systematic study so far has been done to look at the farmland salinity and their impact on crop growth. So initially we have taken the initiative and prepared a national level proposal, National Salinity Management Strategy, which is going to be submitted to Kuwait Foundation for the Advancement of Sciences. So this proposal will be considered and reviewed by 3 international reviewers from KFAS. And we are hoping that this proposal will be approved by October, the deadline they gave it to us. So on the approval of this proposal, we will be investigating all agriculture farms in Kuwait. We will look into the groundwater salinity and the soil salinity under different crops. So based on the soil salinity information, we are going to develop the soil salinity maps of agriculture farms. And we are going to actually group the agriculture farms and groundwater salinity into different crop zones based on the salt tolerance levels. So we will have a soil salinity map for each farm, and we'll have the groundwater salinity map for all the farms. And based on that, we're trying to make the zones of Kuwait, in Abdali and in Wafra, so that the farmer, they know what is the capacity of their soil and the waters. And based on that, using the national strategy, we are going to recommend them that these are the crops which have the potential to grow under each salinity zone. In addition to that, I would like to also share with you that we have conducted a national training program last month for 3 days, whereby many people they have attended from the Agriculture Ministry and from Kuwait and from our research center and from the university as well. So it was a 4 days program. We gave like 12 lectures in 14 sessions. So the training program was very well taken by all the participants. And while I was working at the International Center for Biosphere and Agriculture, I had given the similar programs in Ethiopia, in Senegal, in Seychelles, in Niger, Jordan, in many countries. So this was an update of the national training program for Kuwait. So we have taken the initiative now to address the salinity issues on a scientific basis. and hoping that within 3 years, we are going to give a national salinity management strategy for Kuwait so that they can live for many years to come. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Shahid. I will now give the floor to Mr. Ahmed Masjar from Syria.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for inviting me for this important group. I would like to thank all the chairs and the organizers. My name is Ahmed Masjar. I am from the General Commission for Scientific Agriculture Research in Syria, in Damascus. I work mostly on drainage system design and study and implementation. As you know, we have passed a crisis, so we have a lot of destroyed drainage system need to evaluate, to rehabilitate and whatever. Moreover, we work on reuse of treated wastewater and saline, all drainage saline water for crop irrigation. So we try to find the standards, the criteria that for safe use of this water. In addition, we are trying to study the distribution of halophytes, natural halophytes in Syrian environments, trying to find what is the sustainable use or what is the rational use of this halophytes in the agricultural production as a forage crops and whatever. This is the main activity that we do mostly in our research centers and whatever. So I hope we will can exchange our experience and we will catch from you a lot of experience and knowledge. Thank you very much.
Next one is from India, Singh Shiveshwar. Sorry for my pronunciation. I think I did well.
Yeah. I am audible.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir, and all the respected members. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Shiveshwar Pratap Singh. I am working as a scientist cum assistant professor in Central Agricultural University, India. My specialization is in soil fertility, management of the salt affected soils. I have already completed one project related to the salt affected soils. Under this, we selected more than 50 farmers for demonstration of the different management practices, how to reclaim their sodic soils, and we also trained them. Besides this, I am involved in teaching to postgraduate students with a course entitled Management of Salt Affected Soils since last 12 years. And I for your kind knowledge that in India, there is both type of problem, that is the salinity as well as the sodicity. In salt affected soil, there are two types of problems, and the soils that is, and out of the total area, more than 50% soils are sodic in nature, and about 25% soils are saline in nature. So I am working on this, and thank you for the organizing team for giving me an opportunity. Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot. We'll now give the floor to Mr. George Come from Cameroon. Can you please unmute?
Unmute, okay.
Yeah, now it's fine.
Can you hear me, please? Okay,
yeah,
greetings to everybody. So I am George Come from Cameroon, and for a while now I have been involved in the partnership that has to do with the INSAS. So briefly, I will have to say that, you know, for the case of Cameroon, we are still at the beginning. First of all, to have an idea of the extent of the nature of saline or sodic soils in Cameroon. And we already have some problems that we're trying to manage. For example, problem of data acquisition. That is what we're actually basing on now. But you know, with respect to data, the type that is laboratory analysis is also a major issue. That is why I was very interested when I found out that it was good to maybe have a link with the laboratories, because this will go a long way to help us to see how we can better obtain real data on aspects on soil salinity so that we can better judge. So for now, that is where we are. For now, we have preliminary results on the extent of the distribution of saline and sodic soils in Cameroon, though we are still working on that because we know it is not very perfect, the information that we have at hand now. I have my collaborators with whom we are working, but you know, the major challenge is data acquisition. So we're still working on that. I think this joint network, INSAS and the GLOSOLAN, will enrich us because the main idea we have here is to gain knowledge. We want to learn more to see how we can better understand our situation in Cameroon. Thank you.
Thanks a lot indeed. This is the mission of this working group. Thanks for highlighting it once again. Next one is Matt Leziki. I hope I pronounced it well.
Hi, everyone. My name is Matt Lasecki. I am a lab technician for Todd Skaggs, who you'll hear from in a minute at the US Salinity Lab in Riverside, California. So while I'm not as experienced of a scientist as you guys are, hopefully I can have some insight and maybe input on lab techniques and some of the aspects of the actual analysis as we move forward with this. So I'm excited to be here and to listen to everything that's going on.
A lot. That I will give the floor to Mr. Todd Skaggs.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Todd Skaggs. I'm the leader of the United States Salinity Lab in Riverside, California. So we're part of the U.S. Department of Agricultural Research Service. Our mission is to conduct basic research on salt-affected soil, plant, water systems. So we've been around so almost 100 years now here at Riverside. Currently, we're working on remote sensing techniques for mapping and monitoring salinity, genetic basis for crop salt tolerance, and some water treatment technologies. But we've been involved, of course, in characterizing salt-affected soils for some time. So I'm happy to be here and participate in this group. Thanks.
Thanks a lot. Nice to have you here. Next one is Karim Shahboji.
Yes. Do you hear me?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Karim Shahboji from Iran. I am head of the laboratories department in Soil and Water Research Institute. I'm soil chemist, and the area of my research is method of soil, plant, and fertilizer analysis, and also soil pollution. As you may know, most of our soils are affected by salt, and we are trying to harmonize the methods and data for preparing the map and monitoring the salt affected soil. And I hope that we share our experience and knowledge in this group in this area, in the mapping and method of analysis and methods that can and techniques that can help us in predicting the salinity of soils in the future. Thank you so much.
Next one on my screen is Markowski. I don't know the name. Markowski. Maybe it's connection problem. Maybe I will go to the next one. This is Fasil Kebede.
Hi everyone, thank you Filippo. My name is Fasil Kabede. Currently I am working for the Center for Soil and Fertilizer Research in Africa at the Mohammed VI Polytechnic University. And by training I'm a soil scientist, soil chemist. As you know very well, salt affected soil is one of the major problems for Africa and for the entire world. Basically, the fundamental problem, to my mind, again, based on my experience, is the classification itself, because the traditional classification that we see in the textbooks are really too little to contribute to solving the practical problems like saline, sodic soils. They are good for teaching purposes, but when it comes to really solving the problem, they don't work. So what we do currently is really understanding, first of all, the causes of salinity, why soluble salts or how soluble salts are added to the soil environment, and then identifying types of salinity based on the dominant type of electrolytes. For example, there are soils, as you know very well, that are dominated by magnesium. They are called magnesian soil. And also there are soils that are dominated by sodium. Both have, of course, different nature and property when it comes to management. So what we do is really we try to characterize in order to understand the overall nature of these soils, and then to come up with management approach. For example, one of the management or the ameliorants we use currently is the phosphogypsum. As you know it very well, the presence of sodium and of course magnesium bicarbonate to cause structural disturbance. So we do believe that the calcium in phosphogypsum can halt this degradation. So we have really a wide-ranging topic, starting from identification, so of course, based on the soil nature, going further to the recommendation of the practices that are needed to practically solve, thereby boosting productivity. I'm really very much happy joining this great team. Thank you.
Mr. Kebede. Next one on my screen is Rich Ferguson.
Sorry?
Over to you. The next one on my screen is Rich Ferguson. So over to you, Rich.
Hey, thanks Filippo. Yeah, this is Rich Ferguson. I'm a supervisory chemist at the Kellogg Soil Survey Laboratory, which is part of the National Soil Survey Center of the Soil and Plant Science Division of the Natural Resources Conservation Service of the United States Department of Agriculture. And the Kellogg Laboratory is located in Lincoln, Nebraska. The state of Nebraska is located in the middle of the USA, cowboy land, lots of farms and ranches. And the Kellogg Laboratory is the main US government soil analysis laboratory for what's known as the National Cooperative Soil Survey Program. The Kellogg Laboratory receives samples from all over the USA, actually, and from many parts of the world. Among those samples are some from salt-affected areas. These can occur naturally or as can develop as the result of irrigation water quality issues and or inadequate drainage management, which of course are critical considerations to maintain the viability of at-risk soils for agronomic purposes. So in the interest of soil survey mainly, but also for soil health assessment, the Kellogg Laboratory analyzes such samples by the usual suite of methods and makes all the data available not just to the sample submitter, but also to the general public, if that's of any interest. I'm looking forward to working with this team to to compare notes on methods of laboratory assessment of such resources and other topics. It's nice to meet you all, and that's all I got, Filippo. Thank you.
Not Rich. Now we'll give the floor to Maria Todorovska. Maria, do you hear us? Otherwise, I can skip waiting for her. We can move to Mr. Abdelmajid Zouari. Abdelmajid, are you there? Okay, no answer yet. Pradeep Dey. Pradeep, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay,
Good evening. Good evening, everybody. I'm Pradeep Dey from India. Basically, I have worked in. I am already working in ICS system, but I have worked for my salt abated soil part, mainly in Central Salinity Research Institute, Karnal also. So we work experience wise, I will be able to contribute in this particularly management and this problem soil, as well as biotic and abiotic stresses related to problem soil, both sodic, saline, and saline alkali soil as well. And to some extent, we have also worked on sodic bhati soil, which is a difficult domain in the sense that it is having more clay content, and even at less than 15 SAR values, there are problems in those soil where clay content is higher. So those types of soils are more difficult to manage. And to some extent, work experience of these problematic waters on soil as well as for utilization in non-food crops, particularly for floriculture plants, some experience is there. So I'll be able to contribute in this line in this particular program. And thanks for getting me in here. Thanks to FAO. Thank you very much.
Good, Pradeep. Next one is Mrs. Riham Zahlan. Riham, are you there?
Good day for all. Can you hear me well, Filippo?
Yes, yes.
Yes, sorry for the bad connection from my side. Good day for all. I'm so honored to join this working group between INSAS and GLOSOLAN. Actually, I'm Riham Zahlan. I have a PhD in rural agriculture, soil physics in particular. And for now, I work for the Syrian General Commission for Scientific Agricultural Research as the head of Soil Maintenance and Reclamation Department. I'm also responsible of 10 soil labs in the Syrian lands in 10 different governorates and the extent of Syria. I actually wanted to join this group because I'm so interested in the main issues and tasks of this group regarding implementing new SOPs were harmonized by GLOSOLAN, and measure their and evaluate this work, these SOPs actually in measuring, estimating, and also mapping the salt affected soils. Actually, for us in Syria during 2022, we are planning to reactivate our researches, especially in the north of Syria, where we have a big problem of saline soils in the Euphrates Valley. And we are planning actually in the assist of Professor Jorge. He was so generous to share his experience with us in order to implement different SOPs, was, as I said, harmonized by GLOSOLAN, in order to find a correlation, so we can maybe have different measures of electrical conductivity of soil, for example, by different methods, whether it was in the field or in the lab. And then go for estimation of the current situation of the north lands of Syria, and then compare it with the previous situation, maybe think about reasons and then about the reclamation. Actually, I'm so honored to be one of the trainers with the GSB for several parameters, strongly related to salt-affected soils. And I remember several discussions, whether it was in the INSAS working group or in GLOSOLAN working group. There was a lot of questions and concerns, thoughts and ideas were rising regarding the how to estimate and how to deal with salt-affected soils. I want to implement these ideas in order to find something new and in order to re-establish a new fundamentals in dealing with salt-affected soils in the light of the work of GLOSOLAN. Thanks for all. I'm looking forward to work with you and to benefit from you at the same time. Thanks.
A lot, Riham. I don't know if some of the participants who didn't introduce themselves yet are available now. I see there is Maria Todorovska or Mr. Zohari. I don't know if they're with us, or maybe they cannot talk. Or is there someone else who didn't introduce themselves, himself or herself? Well,
yes, Filippo.
yeah,
Yes,
sorry.
yes. Dr. Abdel Majid from Morocco. So just to say that the problem of salinity of soil and water salinity is a big issue also in Morocco. We have about 700,000 hectares affected by salinity. The major problem that we face here in Morocco is about how to reclaim these soils as well as groundwater, saline groundwaters. We have in the past participated in some project dealing with using, for example, tolerant plants to salinity. Also, we have used some organic amendment in the soil, but it's still a very big issue in Morocco, and we are looking forward new technologies or new methods to tackle this issue. And it will be very interesting if we can share this knowledge on this topic. And thank you very much.
Dr. Ben Najid, is there someone else? Otherwise, I think we can give the floor to you, Maria, to introduce what is the mission of this working group. Please.
Okay, thank you, Filippo, and thank you to all joining us. Actually, for me, it is a great pleasure to meet you again this year. So we continue our work with INSAS, and now we are collaborating together with GLOSOLAN. And so in my presentation, let me share my screen. In my presentation, I will overview what we plan to do inside this joint INSAS GLOSOLAN working group. So actually, and give some maybe short introduction and background how this idea appeared. Actually, the GLOSOLAN, they have quite an extensive experience of harmonizing the different methodology of developing the SOPs, the standard operating procedures for different chemical analysis. So this year they are celebrating a 5-year, they are 5-year-old. So they have some sort of celebration. And since the INSAS started to work only last year, but what we were thinking about is that actually the behavior of soil system, which contains salts or which is so dispersed in case of sodic soils, actually the behavior is very different. Even during the implementation of chemical analysis or pre-treatment and etc. So we came with the idea to GLOSOLAN from INSAS that we can contribute quite substantially with this knowledge specifically about salt-affected soils. And so this is why we meet today for our first meeting. So what we see, what are the main, let's say, areas of this joint work? It is the revision of existing SOPs. which have already been harmonized. Filippo, he will be talking more about it. Then the development of new SOPs related to salt-affected soils. As soon as we here we have high-level experts on this topic, so it will be good also to support GLOSOLAN as soon as it is mostly the voluntary work, and not always all the experts are available for this sort of work. So I think that we can strengthen and move forward in regard to salt-affected soils and developing the new SOPs. Then one more important task which we can do jointly is the transfer function between different analytical methods and also capacity development. And I will give maybe more details regarding each of this area of work. The existing SOPs, they are at the moment the SOP for electrical conductivity, the SOP for saturated soil paste extract, and SOP for boron. So in case for the SOP on saturated soil paste extract, it can be supplemented for some specific cases such as coarse texture soils or soils which contain a high amount of organic matter. Then it was proposed that the preliminary testing can be added because this method in some cases is quite laborious and time consuming. So quick testing to identify if it is necessary to implement this time consuming procedure is useful. So if it shows that salinity is absent, actually, so you can avoid this let's say this stage of analysis. Then also, so what is implemented inside GLOSOLAN, and we would like to support this, is the interlaboratory cross study to evaluate the coefficient of variance. So I think that Lucrezia maybe will give more details in her talk regarding how it is implemented inside GLOSOLAN, and so with the same soil samples. And what is more acute now is the SOP on boron, because this SOP, which has already been developed, it is missing the expert review. So the first step of this working group or joint working group will be mainly focused on this revision of SOP for boron as the first step. Then regarding the new SOPs which are relevant to salt-affected soils, here we identified several of them, but during the brainstorming or through your comments in the chat, we expect that you can add more to this list of SOPs which are relevant to salt-affected soils. So these are the exchangeable sodium proportion. There are several analytical methods actually used in different parts of the world, and they are not harmonized. They are very difficult to compare. The same about SAR. Then alkalinity in soil saturated paste extract. Then this is what Jorge is can maybe comment on. This is the conservation of samples in case of high alkalinity. The analysis of boron, there are quite several analytical methods. Then what is important, and so I think that the specific meetings of INSAS will be taken during this year, is the soil sampling design, because it is, I think that is one of the most let's say asked questions to INSAS. So how to sample soils, what design should be taken, and etc. So and also the GLOSOLAN, they are planning to develop some manual on the soil sampling. Then soil particle size analysis. So as we know that sodic soils, especially sodic soils, and they have quite a specific behavior. And so, and here you can add more. if you consider it important. Then regarding to other questions, I just mentioned them here. This is transfer functions between different analytical methods, because if we take, for example, the salinity assessment, so in different countries, quite different methods are used, and still also we have despite the fact that we have quite several publications which are related to this, still some harmonization, some discussion and decision between different countries, different regions should be taken, and also some transfer functions should be developed under INSAS and GLOSOLAN work. And also capacity development. So this year, the call will be open for the experts of INSAS so that they can provide the lectures or some mainly lectures regarding salt affected soils, including their analysis and their other aspects of the management of salt affected soils. So I'm quite brief because most of the questions which are mentioned here, they will be discussed in the further talks. So thank you.
Okay, Maria. If you have any comments on the slides that have been shown or the next ones, you're free to raise your hand or write your comments in the chat, and we can give you the floor, of course. I don't know if Jorge, yeah, you want to add something, please.
Yes, I think that this thing, it is not exhaustive, and but there are some aspects that could be very relevant to people that working on salt affected soils. For example, when we try to make modeling of reactive transport into the soils, we mostly use pedotransfer functions derived from soil texture. And if we do not have a standard method for this soil texture determinations, particle size, then the models will give erroneous results. Maybe there exist very good pedotransfer functions like in Rosetta or those that are doing by other researchers. But this is a critical point for other tasks, not only for reporting data, but for other tasks that are very important in the management and not only on the field management, but as well on groundwater and crops production and so on. So this aspect, I think that should be raised in the list if this is to be reflected by the priority. Thank you.
And indeed, in the item 4, I think we will talk more about all these inputs and requests. We'll try to figure out what are the SOPs, the activities, all the initiatives we can implement, and we will try to define what is the work plan. So I took a note of it, but I kindly ask you to come back with that in a couple of minutes when we will talk about this. But indeed, it's a good input, and indeed, the whole game is about trying to figure out all the possible projections from both networks and also outside to new applications. So indeed, this was also a good point, and I will note it. Thanks. If there is no additional comment, I will give the floor to my colleague Lucrezia Caon, who will introduce you to GLOSOLAN. Again, I know some of you are familiar with the network and are members of it. Some of you may not be aware of it, so she will briefly introduce you to GLOSOLAN and how GLOSOLAN is harmonizing the globally harmonizing the procedures adopted in the labs. So please, Lucrezia.
Yeah, many thanks, Filippo, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody. I hope you can hear me well. I was actually happy because I saw many familiar faces, familiar in terms of GLOSOLAN. So I will be very brief, and while I share my screen, I would like to thank Maria and INSAS for being willing to work with us. We are really looking forward to cooperate with you and to work together. So what am I doing? I don't know. Here, sorry, I'm not used to work online. So, okay, I hope you can see my screen. So I will briefly introduce you to GLOSOLAN and our way of harmonizing standard operating procedures. So GLOSOLAN was established in 2017 to harmonize soil laboratory methods and data and to build the capacity of laboratories in soil analysis. At present, we have three major areas of work. The first one deals with the internal and external quality control. And also we deal with quality assurance and quality control at the same time. Under this thematic area of work, we organize a proficiency test, either at the global, regional, or national level. If we look at the national level, we work on supporting countries and laboratories in organizing their own proficiency test. The second main area of work is that refers to methods. So in this case, we harmonize standard operating procedures, and also we provide trainings on the implementation of the standard operating procedures. We do not focus on methods of analysis only, but we also work on health and safety and other aspects that are like that surrounds the work in the laboratory and are very important for ensuring the quality of the results. The third major area of work is that on equipment. We train laboratories on the use, maintenance, and purchasing of equipment, also by collaborating with manufacturers. And we are really working hard and trying to establish a barter donation system to support our procurement system to laboratory needs. So regarding this donation bartering system, it's basically a system that put in touch laboratories that have a surplus of equipment or that have still functioning equipment that they are replacing to pass it through laboratories that do not have equipment or that have broken equipment. And ultimately, under these third thematic areas of work, we also have our initiative on soil spectroscopy, so basically dry chemistry. In parallel, we establish a network that still deals with laboratories, but not with soil. And that's INFA, the International Network on Fertilizer Analysis. This is like our twin network. As per today, basically, we count on the contribution and membership of 826 laboratories in the world. In this map, you see in yellow the countries in which we do not have a laboratory registered in the network yet, but we are working on getting those countries at least one laboratory in those countries registered in the network as well. This is a regional overview. We work by regional cell laboratory network. So at the global level, we have the GLOSOLAN, the Global Cell Laboratory Network. Then in the regions, we operate through regional cell laboratory networks. And as you can see, we have a network for Latin America and the Caribbean, then one for Africa, another one for the Near East and North Africa, one for Europe and Eurasia that work together, one for Asia, and one for the Pacific. And then we have the North America that is currently represented by the USDA, and it's well represented. It's basically, it consists of Canada and United States. They are quite independent and manage their work a bit independently, but strongly contribute to the work of GLOSOLAN at the global level. Here, there is the overview of the number of members network from the different regions. And this is an overview of our structure, no? Like really the organigram of GLOSOLAN, how we work. GLOSOLAN has an elected chair and vice chair. At present, well, you already met Miriam. She's the new GLOSOLAN chair, and she's from Argentina. And the new vice chair of GLOSOLAN is a very nice sir from Niger. They were elected to this position at the last GLOSOLAN meeting in November 2021. Thereafter, there is Filippo and myself that act as coordinator, and we belong to the Global Soil Partnership. And the chair and vice chair are supported in their role by the GLOSOLAN Steering Committee and the GLOSOLAN Technical Committee. These last committees works very closely with the working groups, And I will be mentioning some of the working group that we have in a few seconds, because those are refers to the ones in charge of harmonizing and writing the SOPs. And also the technical committee works very closely with the GLOSOLAN trainers. Going down, but it's not really going down, because we are like a family, so we are all at the same level. We find the regions. Each regional soil laboratory network is chaired by a chair, and that is supported by 1 or 2 vice chairs, depending on the region and the number of languages spoken in the region. For example, we have 2 vice chairs for GLOSOLAN, so 1 to cover Europe and 1 to cover Eurasia that mostly speak Russian. We have 2 vice chairs also in the Near East and North Africa, 1 that speak French and 1 that speak Arabic. And then we also have 2 vice chairs for Africa. Again, 1 to speak English and 1 to speak French. So really, we try to support countries as much as possible in terms of breaking language barriers. As I told you, we at the global level, we have GLOSOLAN, then we have the resonance at the regional level, and we work in the countries through the national reference laboratories that are appointed by the GSP focal point to this role. So the role of really triggering action and transferring knowledge at the national level to other laboratories registered in the network. And their main task, the main task of this national reference laboratory is also that of establishing national soil laboratory network. So at the country level, we work through NASOLANs that are led by the national reference laboratories. Looking at the standard operating procedures, well, these are basically step-by-step instructions that also include a section on health and safety, quality assurance, and quality control. They are globally harmonized documents, and they basically ensure the replicability of a measurement, no? Because if you keep on implementing that method, supposedly you get the same quality result of the result. All these SOPs are available online on the GLOSOLAN website. They are for free and they are in multiple languages. Just a note, they are in multiple languages, so they are available at least in the 6 UN languages. And thereafter, we make them available in other languages, depending on the availability of translators. If countries move a request to translate one of our documents in a local dialect or in a language that is not a UN official one, we can do it and publish them online. So how does the harmonization process work? Well, first of all, we have to decide which SOP to harmonize in terms of parameter and method. This decision is based on the request made by the regional soil laboratory network, so basically by the regions, by the request of the Global Soil Partnership, and also keeping an eye on global priorities. So putting together these 3 types of requests, the GLOSOLAN at its annual meeting make a final decision on the SOPs to harmonize in the coming year. So we have annual work plans in terms of SOP harmonization. Second, once we have, there is a decision on the SOPs to harmonize, we establish working groups and review panels. 1 working group and 1 review panel per each SOP. Who are these 2 entities? Well, the working group is composed by experts from all regions that work under the coordination of a global leader. The global leader is basically one of these experts that raise his or her hand and decide to take the overall responsibility over the writing of the SOP. So basically, it's the person that I will be stalking at the end of the day if I don't see anything coming out of the working group. And indeed, this global leader is the main author of the SOP. Looking at task, the working group is the one task to write the SOP. Once the SOP is written or even ready in its draft version, it's sent to the review panel, that is a panel composed again by experts from all regions, plus the global leader of the working group, and it's tasked to review and endorse the SOP. Now, when we establish the working group and the review panel, we try to put a very top experts on a method, if possible, even just to identify them, we try to put them in the review panel to really give us like the final touch. Once that the review panel approve the SOP, we publish it on the GLOSOLAN website. But let me tell you a bit more how the working group works now. So how we get to drafting the SOP. So first of all, the working group prepare what we call the Harmonization Matrix. This is an Excel document reporting all crucial steps in a procedure, meaning like all those steps that can lead to differences in the results. And we send, this is just an overview of how the Excel look. And we send this Excel to all GLOSOLAN members for completion. We give them a deadline, of course, and by the time we reach the deadline, we compile all inputs, and we as a GLOSOLAN coordinator, so FAO, make all the information anonymous before sharing them with the working group. Why we do this? Because we want the process to be as fair and neutral and objective as possible. So we don't want the working group to focus on what like specific countries do because maybe they have the idea that they are better of the other. No, like all information are anonymous and the harmonization is very objective. Then what we ask the working group to do is to do a regional harmonization. Basically, we put together all information, for example, coming from Africa, and we send them to the representatives in the working group from Africa. And we ask them, please harmonize this information. Why we do this? Because when we first started to work on SOP harmonization, on the harmonization of SOPs, we didn't have this regional harmonization first. So the working group ended up working on sometimes like hundreds of lines of information, and it was extremely difficult to get to actually to process all this information because it was just too much. So we decided to break them down in pieces so that instead of having at the end like hundreds of lines of info, we would end up having 7 or 8 lines of info, depending on the number of regions that submit information. So the regional representatives in the working group harmonize information coming from their region. Then they send them, well, they share them with the working group, but especially with the global leader that at the end does a global harmonization. So look at what comes out from the different region and harmonize this information accordingly. Based on this harmonization process that you have here summarized, so as you can see, we have the labs at the bottom that complete the matrix and submit information. Then we have the regional harmonization, and ultimately we have the global harmonization. So based on this global harmonization that again comes out in the form of a matrix, the working group write the draft SOP. We have a template for this with really instructions and indications on what needs to be written under the different sections in the document. And the template is available at the link you see on screen. Once the draft SOP is ready, it's sent to the review panel for review. And starting from this year, since in November 2021, we decided to establish a technical committee, a GLOSOLAN technical committee to support the chair of the work of the GLOSOLAN chair and vice chair. So starting from this year, after the review of the review panel, we will ask also a few members of the technical committee to have a final look at the SOP to ensure that everything is fine, because we really care of publishing high quality documents, no? So once that all this review process is done, we are ready to publish the SOP and also to translate them in multiple languages. This is just an example of how the SOP look like in terms of links on the website. Just to let you know that we are remaking the website, so very soon you will not find information like this anymore, but we are working to make it more user friendly, and also, yeah, nicer, basically easier to access for everybody. And here, as you can see here, we don't only publish the document, but we also publish training videos per each of the SOPs that we release. No, again, this links to what I told you at the beginning, that we don't work only on harmonization, but also on training on the implementation of the SOPs, but in general, like of the documents we produced. And these training videos are made by GLOSOLAN members on a volunteering basis. At last, we care also of publishing information on the sustainability of the methods that we release. And this has also a second objective, that is that of promoting the transition towards the use of more sustainable method. This is an overview of how this sustainability of method matrix looks like. So here we report the method. And then here we classify in low, medium, and high the risk for human health related to the use of chemicals and the overall implementation of the procedure by the staff of the lab, the environmental risk that mostly related to the waste disposal. We also provide an indication, in addition to this sustainability of method, we provide an indication on the level of technology required to implement the method, the average duration of the analysis, and then a global median price of the analysis for the customers. So this is our process in short. So as I told you, first of all, we decide on the SOPs to harmonize. Then we establish the working groups, but also the review panel. We develop the matrix. We share the matrix with the laboratories. Then we do a regional harmonization first and a global harmonization at the end. We draft the SOP, we get the SOP review by the review panel, and then we publish the SOP together with information on the sustainability of the methods. And also we translate the SOP in as many languages as possible. Just to conclude, I would like to inform you that we are also doing another type of harmonization that refers to multiple methods. For example, last year we released an SOP on the Turing method that contained a transfer function that allowed laboratories implementing the Turing method to have their results, let's say, converted, or actually, yeah, let's say converted. I don't know if technically that's the right word, but let's say converted to results obtained using the Walkley and Black method. So in that case, the transfer function is already included in the SOP and allow comparability between two SOPs, the one on Turing and the one on Walkley and Black. Of course, we are still talking about SOPs released by GLOSOLAN. But we also encourage laboratories to develop their own transfer functions. This mostly apply to those laboratories that cannot implement GLOSOLAN SOPs because of their internal policy or because of national legislations and so on. Still, GLOSOLAN works on harmonization of data and methods. And as you know, also when we, if we look at the bigger picture, no, when we work on projects, on when we work on mapping, we need of data to be comparable between countries and regions. How we can do this? By developing transfer functions. At present, GLOSOLAN is working on writing guidelines on how to develop transfer functions, indeed to help laboratories in developing these functions themselves. So this was my last slide. I very much thank you for your attention.
Thanks a lot, Lucrezia, for the nice overview, both on the network and on the methodology used to harmonize these standard operating procedures. I don't know if there is any comment for Lucrezia, something that is unclear about all these global procedure, or if that is fine, everything is clear. All clear.
Filippo, you
Good.
will be saying more about SOP.
Yeah, indeed.
So.
Let me share my screen because now we will go more into the topic. I will more. Just a second. Okay, so now we will go more into the topic. I will more. Just a second. Okay, so now we will go more into the topic. I will more. Just a second. Okay, so now we will go more into the topic. I will more. Just a second. Okay, so now we will go more into the topic. I will more. Just a second. Okay, so now we will go more into the topic. I will more. Just a second. Okay, so now we will go more into the topic. I will more. Just a second. Okay, so now we will go more into the topic. I will more. Just a second. Okay, so now we will go more into the topic. I will more. Just a second. Okay, so now we will go more into the topic. I will more. Just a second. Okay, so now we will go more into the topic. I will more. Just a second. Okay, so now we will go more into the topic. I will more. Just a second. Okay, so now we will go more into the topic. I will more. Just a second. Okay, so now we will go more into the topic. I will more. Just a second. Okay, so now we will go more into the topic. I will more. Just a second. Okay, so now we will go more into the topic. I will more. Just a second. Okay, so now we will go more into the topic. I will talk about more about the SOPs that are, let's say, more linked with the topic we are discussing here. So the analysis of those parameters that are related to salt-affected soils. I will just go briefly inform you about what are the SOPs that we already published, that GLOSOLAN already published. This is an overview of all the chemical parameters covered by the methodologies that have been harmonized and published by GLOSOLAN. Those in the lower part of this, lowest part of the scale of the screen are those that are currently under finalization, meaning that we hope to release them soon in the upcoming weeks. As you can see from one parameter, more than one methodology is available sometimes. So this links to what Lucrezia mentioned about giving alternatives to the laboratories according to the methods they would like to prefer to implement according to the sustainability of these methods. So labs can choose among different methods according to the technology that is needed, the time for the analysis, the risk for the staff, about handling the reagents, and about the disposal of the waste. These are the parameters harmonized about physical and biological soil parameters. So these are the protocols we harmonize. We work on this year, and again, these are under finalization, and we hope to release them soon. And these are all the SOPs that are in the GLOSOLAN work plan. I'm showing with you these informations because you may find some relations with some parameters that are interest for the analysis of salt-affected soils in the overall consideration and assessment of the field conditions. I'm thinking about, for instance, the water retention curve, or as I mentioned here, for instance, the particle size, or of course the pH and electrical conductivity and boron. But let me talk more about these three SOPs. Basically, here we would like also to hear from you, because as you may see, we already published this document. Some of you were even present during the trainings that have been implemented in the last months of 2021, in which we try to support laboratories to implement these SOPs. So we present them, we present the overall procedures, we try to include aspects regarding quality assurance, quality control, health and safety, all the steps of these procedures. And of course, these are those most strongly related to salt-affected soils. So electrical conductivity with a soil-water ratio 1:5, and the saturated soil paste extract. So as Maria already mentioned, these SOPs can be improved, and this is indeed the idea of these SOPs harmonized by GLOSOLAN. These are living documents, meaning that every year we can update them, take into account specific conditions, revising some parts of the procedures, and involving new methodologies or new different reagents if possible, if available. So this is also why it is important to talk about you experts on salt salinity analysis, on how we can improve these documents. These are, let's say, the version 1. We look forward to release version 1.1 or even version 2. So some of the inputs were already presented by Maria and mentioned also by Jorge. So we may include indeed specific conditions. We have been asked by the Global Partnership colleagues, and this proposal was endorsed during the annual GLOSOLAN meeting of last year, to include range and reference values within these SOPs. What are they? Range values basically stands for the range of the parameter in which the procedure can be applied, while the reference values refers to the interpretation, meaning that in the end of the SOPs, we will provide a table or some values that can help farmers or the customers who ask for the analysis of the samples to better interpret the results of the outcomes of the analysis. Of course, there was a big discussion about this because reference values can change according to the land use, according to the soil types, as well as range values can widely depend on the soil and the methodology. But this is why we would like to discuss this with you, because we are having the support, as Miriam mentioned, the critical mass of experts supporting us will allow us to reach and include these values within the SOPs. And as it was mentioned, we may even think about including sampling guidelines and storage on how to store samples properly. This may or may not refer to these two SOPs in particular, but to the other SOPs as well. So this is something we may take into account. So I will soon open the discussion about how we can improve this. The idea, the proposal we would like to share with you is to find someone who wants to start working on these SOPs, meaning that we will involve you, some of you, and the authors of these SOPs to update them, to update the text, to improve the text, and release a new version of these SOPs in English as well as in the other languages. Then there is this SOP on boron. As I mentioned, we are about to release it. The text is ready. The working group, Lucrezia mentioned in her presentation, finalize the text, meaning that the text is ready for review. Still, we don't have the review panel for these SOPs. We could not find experts within GLOSOLAN to review this text. This is why we would like to collaborate with INSAS and find together some of you to review this SOP before its publication. So the idea is again here to find some experts, someone among you who wants to volunteer to review the text of this procedure, because of course somehow is linked to salt affected soils, and boron content is one of the indicators. And of course we are ready to receive proposals. Any proposals from you will be more than welcome. We can take into account requests. Maria already displayed some of them during her presentation. So in case INSAS, and especially you members of this working group, would like to ask GLOSOLAN to work on specific parameters that are very interesting for the measurement of saline and sodic soils, these are more than welcome. We can establish a working group and we can work on them. So this is I made this presentation very short because we want to hear from you and start first of all hear from you what you think about these proposals to work together on these three SOPs, and then no more. So basically, who wants to help us to review the SOP on analytical conductivity? Who wants to review the SOP on saturated soil paste extract? Who wants to work on the review of the text of the SOP on boron before it is published? And if you have any proposal about other SOPs to be included in the GLOSOLAN work plan, these are more than welcome. So I think the best now is to open the floor to the participants so we can hear from you in case you have any suggestions on this, or if you want to propose to work on any of these SOPs as a starting point. Of course, this is what we got so far by GLOSOLAN. Can be a starting point. We want to improve them because we want to have a good product, because as Miriam mentioned, as Lucrezia mentioned, these products are widely adopted. We have to think these files they are available online for free in different languages, and there are laboratories implementing them. So we want them to be updated, to be reliable, and to be clear. So anything can be improved in the text would be welcome. So I don't know if you, Maria, or Jorge wants to add something. I see already Karim as the hand up. So Karim, you are welcome to take the floor.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just want to add something, just maybe proposal. You may know that some of salt affected soil contains gypsum, and it makes difficult to measure or harmonize the electrical conductivity in different methods. I think I don't know we can include this issue in the salt affected soils or not. I can want just make a proposal for salt affected soil that containing gypsum, or measuring gypsum, or maybe in harmonizing the data, we should look in a special way. I don't know. Just I want to make a proposal in this way.
If not, Karim, I approve of it. I don't know, Jorge, you have something to say about that or something new?
Yes, thank you. If I well understood, the GLOSOLAN decides which SOP will be developed along the year. And then you presented something that are ready and maybe adapted for salt-affected soils, and other that are on the way. And in this, identify several that are interesting as well for salt-affected soils, and in the sense that our colleague just pointed out, for example, this organic matter measurement by heating and volatility, making volatile. It is very critical for gypsum. It can be combined in temperature steps to determine not only organic matter but as well gypsum. And then I saw as well this bulky black that is well known that it is not very appropriate if do not correct for electrolytes when making the analysis. So I think that in the initiatives you have already ongoing as well, this soil particle size, we have something to add for revision of the method and adapting to salt-affected soils. And there are other minor techniques that are quite exclusive of salt-affected soils, like the ionic composition of the saturated base extract and so on. But in the list, if you are so kind to put there again on your screen, there are several methods that can be adapted to salt-affected soils. So there's a Walkley black for sure, and then exchangeable bases and cation exchange capacity. And of course, boron we are speaking about, and I think in the next slide you have this of particle size distribution. Mainly, there are other small comments that can be done, but these are relevant to us, and especially this particle size distribution. As I told you, that it is used as a basis for pedotransfer functions for later making reactive transport modeling. It could be very important for us to take a look at that, because it is difficult to disperse. If you have gypsum, if you have salt, it is alkaline. So it is a very, very varied casuistic sometimes. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. And indeed, so if I got you well, the idea is to involve INSAS, so basically this working group, on the review, on the updates, all these SOPs marking led, because we can best fit them, also take into account the salt-affected soils analysis. So Walkley black, exchangeable basis and cation exchange capacity, boron, and particle size distribution. I would like to highlight also this one about loss of ignition. I think you were referring to this one, because we may take into account gypsum, no?
Yes, so making steps when you raise temperature.
Yeah, so we can maybe include the measurement of gypsum within this procedure by setting a first step of temperature. And I would like, can you please repeat again? Maybe I can write here the proposals. The one you mentioned is about ion composition. Can you go back again to that? Ion composition. Oh, sorry. Of the saturated base extract, right?
And the aspects are related to the handling and storage of these extracts.
Come again, sorry?
well, the aspects, how to deal with these extracts. So how to conserve and or how quickly you should analyze for alkalinity, for example. But this could be included in the ion composition of saturated paste extract. I think this is quite only done in the salt-affected soils. And then it is as well the cation exchange capacity that you have in your list.
Yep. Yeah, I think also in the chat we have. I see some suggestions from, for instance, Shabir is proposing to work more on the relationships between the electrical conductivity. I mean the different ratio. I think 1.5, 1 to 5, and ECE I think is a different ratio. So we may even think about, because this is an issue that came out also during the trainings we got about this SOP, and they ask us to better work on the ratio between these two, and especially about the transfer functions between the saturated paste and the electrical conductivity. So maybe we may take this input into account. Again, in the chat, Ahmad is proposing to also to include in the interest of INSAS the SOP on moisture content. Do you all agree with that? Jorge, what do you think?
Yes, it could be.
Okay, great. And Shabir again in the chat is mentioning the salinity. Yeah, gypsum. Salinity. Yeah, it's talking about gypsum, but I think we put into account. Maria, I see you have your hands up. Yeah, let me go to the chat. In the meantime, you can speak, please.
So yes, I wanted to add about this comment which was mentioned by Karim about gypsum, that actually the main recommendation in this case, if you know that your soil is gypsum containing, that to use the minimum dilution as possible, so that gypsum do not interfere into the final result. So, but the question here in the case of SOPs, so should we add it somehow in the beginning of the SOP, for example, for 1 to 5? In this case, the dilution of gypsum will be very high. So it will be maximum. It will be around, yes, as Shabir mentioned, around 2 decisiemens per meter. So it will influence highly to the results on evaluating the slightly and moderately saline soils. It will be crucial. So this was one of let's say topics to discuss with GLOSOLAN, how it can be integrated, such sort of recommendation. And second, regarding the comments of Shabir, because actually it is very important, this correlation between electrical conductivity, which is measured in the soil paste extract, ECE, and with different dilutions. So here, what I think about is that GLOSOLAN, they perform the proficiency testing. So the proficiency tests, when they send the samples to different laboratories, actually here we can discuss how to perform similar. So we can make a call in the between INSAS, asking who of laboratories are interested to participate in this measurements. So if they have the capacity, if they have the analytical equipment to perform both the electrical conductivity measurements in the saturated paste extract and at the same time with the different dilutions. I think it will be very important for our community who are working with salt-affected soils, because still it is a question, because in different soils, in different regions, depending on different ions, cations, and anions, it will give different coefficients actually. So I think we can also include it as a result of, let's say, today's discussion, how to proceed with it.
Yeah, I read like this. So you mean work on the conversion between these two, the data got acquired using these two parameters, right? These two methodologies.
yeah, how to perform this proficiency test among INSAS, because we need the samples, we need the homogeneous samples, which are definitely selling and selling to different degree. So we should maybe work on it. Maybe not this year, but it is very important for.
Yeah, I agree. Like, let's brainstorm and then we can prioritize activities. Of course, maybe we don't work all of them this year, but we can take them into consideration for a longer time work plan. Todd Skaggs.
Hi, so a couple of things. One, the SOPs, we can review those, including the boron one. And secondly, this discussion about going back and forth between the different dilutions and saturation pace. So we do that using we have a numerical model that calculates the chemistry, the changes as you go up and down. So I don't know, it's in the form of an SOP exactly, but I mean, that's the way we've been approaching those kinds of questions, is with chemical equilibrium model that accounts for precipitation and dissolution and sorption as you change the dilution. So I don't know if that's something that is of interest, but I just thought I'd throw it out there.
May I?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I will not tell anymore, because I want that other will contribute to the discussion. But I see in the chat from Singh, there's the proposal to include the different relations, soil water, in this case 1, 2, and it is not it is a problem, because as you know, when you dilute, it is affected, the composition, it is affected by the exchange complex. And there exists such, at least as far as I know, there exists a software that was developed by Donald Suarez at the Salinity lab, taking into account the kind of clay and the saturation and ESP and so on, and then you can convert this different soil water suspension results approximately. And I wonder if this tool I have, because of my relation with Donald Suarez, I think that it would be very good if it could be shared among the community to help people to do things in a proper way. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the one. It's actually an aspect of current work. It's in a model. There's a computer code, but it's not readily usable by most people. And so we're in the process actually of making it easier for people to access on the web. So it'd just be like a web app, and it'd be more straightforward for people to use. But yeah, that's the underlying model that I'm talking about.
Yes, I think Vasily, you want to speak?
Yes, I want to speak very quickly. With regard to the use of payload transfer function, for example, from EC to the saturated paste one, I think there is already a payload transfer function which exists. For example, once we have measured the EC in 1:5 ratio, then we do multiply that by 3.64. And of course, divide that by saturation percentage. But here now, saturation percentage is the function of soil texture. So just one has to again determine the particle size distribution. Having even the payload transfer function alone will not help to eventually compute. So my comment over here is, I think it's better to develop a direct measurement, which method that will serve a direct measurement, which is the ECE, the saturated paste. EC would be the best, even from the standpoint of practical agriculture. So I don't know. It's really, it's not something new in using the payload transfer function. That's number one. The other thing is someone has mentioned about gypsy salts. That's right. If you do refer to the direct definition of salt affected soils, so I think gypsum is the benchmark. We know that 0.4 gram per 100 ml at 0 degrees Celsius is the standard value to classify whether any soil has a soluble salt or not. But one fact is, if we do irrigate gypsy salts with the saline water, then apparently through time there will be a conversion from gypsy salts immediately to either saline sodic or to sodic soil. So in this case, it would be really very, very difficult to benchmark like measuring the gypsum content or anhydrite here. But instead, still you can keep maybe analyzing sulfate. I don't know why Maria missed sulfate is also one of maybe the important analysis, along with the chloride. And of course, other than hot water extractable boron, still boric acid still would be another again equally important parameter to look at. Finally, Filippo, I think it's also very good to consider the spectroscopic technique, as now we have already part of the GLOSOLAN. So it's really maybe we have also reached here with an authority for spectroscopic method. Therefore, I recommend to really consider in again applying spectroscopic technique for salt affected soils parameters measurement. Thanks.
Thanks, Fasil. I took note of that. We may also discuss internally with Ipang, that is the current coordinator of the GLOSOLAN initiative on spectroscopy. We can share this proposal also with them to work on an SOP. They will start soon working on an SOP, and we can ask them to start working on an SOP on for the spectroscopy spectral analysis on salt affected soils. George, you want to talk?
Thank you, Filippo. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I am very interested in the proposal that has to do with the development of payload transfer functions between there is a factor that I think is very important to take into account. That is the soil type. You know, even when we do look at the correlation that exists between soil organic carbon and soil organic matter, the conversion factor that we commonly use does not work for all soils in general. You know, you have soils with high organic matter contents and some with very low organic matter content. This factor does not work well for every case. And you see, when I hear the others who have spoken before, when we consider soils like gypsy soils and calcy soils, it is evident that the analysis will produce different results in different soils. So I think that we should think of developing these payload transfer functions for partition. If not, we will overgeneralize the functions that we develop. And in some cases, if we are not careful, we may use those functions to have values that are not very exact. So I think the soil type should be considered. That is, the classification should be considered. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, George. Well, I'm taking note of all the inputs. Maybe Maria, can you help me here? Because we name many transfer functions that we should work on. Can you help me with recalling all of them? So these are, between electrical conductivity and saturated soil-based extract. Then the link between, I think in the chat you are talking about the relation between AC and total soluble salt. Should I mention this one as well?
Yes, so actually, Filippo, I can comment here that what I think that, so we can ask the participants of today's meeting to share the information about these different coefficients and different transfer functions, because the people saying that they already exist in many cases. So more or less difficult, more or less easy, but I think that it is not related directly to the work of GLOSOLAN of developing the SOPs. It will be some sort of additional information that can be added, maybe in the beginning chapter of SOP. So if you make them to the SOP 1 to 5, in the beginning, some sort of introduction can be given, showing that there are different ratios of measurements. So there are different results, there are different coefficients that can help to transfer, and also there are different, let's say, pros and cons for this recalculation. So this is mainly what was discussed, that if we measure directly in the saturated paste, which is, let's say, most objective, or as it is easier for many people, for farmers, to measure with different dilution. So in this case, they should understand the situation, and we should give some introduction. So this is what how I can sum up this discussion which was held about it.
I mentioned here we should include the information on, so not only the transfer function itself, but also information on, as you mentioned, advantages, disadvantages on that. So we mentioned those between electrical conductivity and saturated soil-based extract, EC and total soluble salts. There was one about pH, if I remember well. Is it correct? Was it mentioned, Maria? I think
it was in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah, pH and ESP, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you want to reiterate, Maria, all the proposals you shared in your slides, because you got quite a good and lots of inputs, lots of good inputs we may include in these proposals. Maybe you want to share again the slide about all the.
Could you stop sharing? I cannot
yeah,
share.
just a second.
So the ones in I think that we have around 5 minutes left. So Filippo, I don't know, maybe we should go to the wrap up, because for many people they cannot maybe continue.
Yeah, okay, let's do like this. We will try to collect all the inputs that have been shared today in the discussion and in the chat. We will follow up by email, both to decide which of these SOPs should be prioritized, and especially about who wants to work on which. First, about the SOPs already published. So as Jorge pointed out, we will try to share with you the text of all SOPs that are interested or with INSAS. These are Woodland back again, particle size distribution, moisture content, and we'll try to include in the working group that we will work on loss of ignition, also gypsum determination. Moreover, we will ask you who wants to work on the review of the other 3 SOPs. So boron, electrical conductivity, and saturated soil-based extract.
And Filippo, can I add just one point, that I think that we have just a small team, small group here. So if there is no objections, maybe you can share the email list with all. So you can you can make the open list so that people could share their links, their papers, their ideas directly to the whole mail list. I think it's, so we are quite here, know each other. So
Yeah, if everyone agree, I will add the database with all the list of work of people and email address to the after this meeting. I just want to briefly before closing the meeting just mention that here we basically talk about SOPs, but there are other kind of activities we may implement within this working group, and that especially about activities that GLOSOLAN ask for the support of INSAS. I want to briefly just mention a few of them. I will go very briefly about among these slides because I have very few minutes left. Okay, once we develop the SOPs, basically an issue is to allow labs to implement them. So what we start doing in the last months is to organize webinars where when many laboratories can attend the meetings. These are organized in several languages in order to allow laboratories to understand more the lessons, the webinars. And these were all the parameters listed here were covered by these webinars. And I can tell you that many people participated. The average of participants for each of these webinars was around 200, 250 people. So again, will be nice if INSAS experts, so basically you, would be able to join us in the organization of the next round of webinars. For instance, about the new SOPs that will be launched, like boron, for instance, or even if we launch already the SOP on electrical conductivity and saturated soil paste extract, and we did the webinar in English, we still can implement them in other languages. So if I know some of you are from all over the world, so all of you are from all over the world. So if some of you is proficient in French, for instance, or in Arabic, and he likes to contribute, we can organize the webinars on that in those languages. As you can see, all the materials is available online, recordings, presentations. So this is how the webinars is implemented. After the meeting, we made all the material available, and if you want to have a look, you can find it on GLOSOLAN webpage. Here, I want to tell you that we also developed some training videos about the SOPs. So this can be done, for instance, about SOPs on related to salt-affected soils. So we may develop a video on how to implement. Of course, after it's updating and improving, we can develop a video on how to implement the SOP on saturated paste or on electrical conductivity. These are very short videos, about 10, 15, 20 minutes maximum, with subtitles in all languages. And I can tell you that these documents are really, this kind of material is really useful. We found out that we released 3 videos so far, and they got more than 4,000 views in a few months. So this material is really accessible by lab technicians and lab staff members. So we can think about work on this kind of material together, even just in terms of review the script. So what will be said during the video. This is one of the activities we can implement together. So we can indeed shoot training videos and organize webinars. And other activities can be, as we mentioned, transfer function. We can work on raised awareness. And for instance, I know many laboratories are aware of it, but we may invest more time to inform them on the importance to measure these kind of parameters. But not only the soil laboratories, also those who invest in soil laboratories. I'm talking about governments, about in case of governmental labs or private sectors. If they will be more aware about the importance of the important job that the labs are doing in providing good quality data that are the base to assess and then manage saline and sodic soils, they may be more interested to invest on them. We work with manufacturers, and can be interesting to fill the gap between labs and manufacturers in order to develop better products according to the needs of soil laboratories in terms of measuring these parameters. And there was a proposal also to launch a PT, so a proficiency test. We are doing regularly in GLOSOLAN. We are currently implementing a global PT. That is basically a ring test. We send samples, homogenized samples to different laboratories, and we collect the results. And by comparing the results, we can assess which laboratories perform well in terms of they have the capacity to perform that parameters, and which laboratories needs more support in terms of training, for instance. And one of the proposals that was collected over the last weeks, also remember during the webinars we implemented on electrical conductivity, was to organize a PT involving those laboratories operating in countries where salt-affected soils are a main threats. So this is also something we can work together. These are a wide spectrum of activities, I know, a lot. Maybe we will start with the SOPs, with the transfer functions. But again, just to tell you that we can do much more. So we can build the capacity, we can raise the awareness, we can work on quality control. But so we are all looking forward to support each other, and I'm pretty sure, pretty positive on this this fruitful collaboration. So I thank you a lot for your participation to this meeting. As mentioned, we will share the email addresses, and in a follow-up email we will share the outcomes of today and the proposals to the way forward. I thank again my colleagues Lucrezia and Maria, and the chair of GLOSOLAN and INSAS, Miriam and Jorge. I don't know if you have any closing remarks. You are more than welcome to take the floor to greet participants. Maria, I will give you the floor to close the meeting officially, please.
So I will give the floor to Jorge, because I see that he wants to say something.
Just to congratulate you for the excellent performance of the meeting, and I think that this will be fruitful. Thank you.
Well,
I only want to thank all by the attend to the meeting, and thanks by your interest in this subject. Thanks.
Everyone, have a nice rest of the evening, day, or morning or afternoon, whenever you are, and we catch up by email. Thanks a lot again.
Okay, thank you. Ciao.
Thank you.
To all.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye. Goodbye.